you ready?
I'm ready. I'm super ready. It's going to be a good one, this one, isn't it?
I'm ready as well.
It's been a long time in the making, this one. I know you've
Oh,
had a
my
hard
days. It's been
trying
long.
to, trying to fucking jam him down, but you got him.
But
Got him.
but at this point in the time, they could be thinking it's Tom Kirkman, but we still haven't got that elusive unicorn done. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't need no introduction. The bloody El Presidente, the big dog on the international scene, the chairman of the IMA for many years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to click admit now, so that when I finish the spiel, he'll be here. Mr. Kody Stewart in the his this.
This is where I get myself comfy.
Thank
I
you.
know it could be a long one, or it could be one that just goes like 15 minutes. Like, hey, what up?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. You can be sometimes a little aloof at the certainly at the World Champs this last time.
Yeah.
I won't track you down and talk to you for elongated periods, but hey, I've got you now. I've got you now. There's
Yeah.
just don't press F4.
Yeah.
Oh, F4.
I don't even know what it does. Yeah, that was a good time at the champs this year. It's nice to have the whole family back together and two different venues. Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it for sure.
Oh, it was my first international. Done
Yeah.
UK. And well, no, actually, I'm lying because of Morzine and Italy, but first world champs.
Yeah.
And oh, man, I understand. I get it. I completely get it now. Like, it is the best of the best. It is the creme de la creme of the world all meeting up. And
Yeah.
you guys, you with what you've done with the IMA and that, and putting that ability to host those events in place for everybody, and the hard work that yourself and Mika and Matt put in and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Like, it's just incredible. So for any mountain boarders out there, before this even gets underway, please get yourself to the world events, because they are fucking incredible.
It was an amazing event at two absolutely phenomenal venues as well. Like, it was all top notch and really well put together and run like real smoothly. It was such a good effort.
Yeah. That's definitely a massive shout out to Matt. Matt puts his heart and soul into creating the brackets and making sure everything runs smoothly. And he racks himself before those events, and then during the events while still competing. Like, I don't know how he does it. And then Mika on the back end, all the internet stuff has all been Mika, almost since the day one of the IMA. And yeah, huge shout outs to him. That in fact it without Mika, we wouldn't be a part of it, because definitely I didn't want to do it. We had different plans. We wanted to do cool one-off events and stuff like that, and Mika was like, we can't just let this go. Like, everybody believes in it right now. When was it? I think it was Starfighter was the last one, Dave. And like, we gotta come in and, like, people believe in it right now. Let's keep going. And so we're like, okay, put ourselves into the voting thing, but I would only do it as a team. And there was no way I could do it without Matt and Mika. So they're integral. I don't know, I've got this title, but those two are the ones that are doing all the work for sure.
Yeah. Well said. The pair of them
I actually told Mika, I said, all right, well, we'll do it, but if there's anything I don't want to do, you have to do it, and he was like, that's fine. So he does he does a lot. Yeah.
That was my first time meeting Mika this summer as well, and what an absolute dude.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, cool. I say that perhaps our paths have crossed before over the years, but not not knowingly, you know, and certainly
Yeah.
if it was, it would have been pre-IMA as such days.
Yeah. It was really cool to see Mika that this year. It was pretty under wraps, but he like had a brain surgery not that long ago. And then while we were all racing or right when racing finished, I think it was when we were racing or doing qualifying, we looked over and he was riding the freestyle line. He had to like relearn to walk and everything. And out there this year in Compiègne, he hit the big line top to bottom, and it was such a cool thing to see. He was trying to be sly about it, but I think a bunch of us ended up seeing him, and it was just such a really, really cool accomplishment to see him.
Yeah, without a doubt. See, I'd watched him pick it off feature by feature.
Yeah,
didn't realize that was the reason.
Yeah.
So fuck, man. Like I was looking to him for inspiration, thinking, right, well, that's how he's doing it. And you know, you see people doing things that you should be doing, good habits that we mount, and he had those habits of right, pick the features off, work my way up the hill, and partially thanks to him, that's why I was ended up riding the full line as well. You know,
good. Yeah.
But yeah, without a doubt. Well, congrats to Mika, man, stepping right up.
Well, it's cool. I feel like Compiègne always is because of the venue itself and how, let's say, manageable it is. You can push yourself there, you know, in a safe space, you know. And the last time we were in Compiègne, man, there's a lot of really good times the last time around as well. But we were pushing it, you know, like I don't like to flip, I backflip. Mika doesn't like to flip, he backflip, you know, like when we were kind of like stepping up the last time as well. So it feels like whenever we go to Compiègne, we end up just pushing each other a little bit harder and things come out. So I think I threw a 5 in the quarter pipe on a throwaway run this year. And I don't think I've 5'd a quarter in like 4 years.
So, well, yeah. It did it. You did it. It has to be said, the shape of the jumps there, you know, credit to Ludo and his team they are ripe for progression. The size of the kickers there is ace, and that the transition, you know, like you've got your run in, transition, flat, transition to take off, and that's nice rather than, you know, one big lot. It just works really well, that park.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. There were a couple of athletes there this year that they would do tricks on the smaller line, and then you know, not long after you'd see them doing them tricks on the big line. Like they were doing you know, the progression of it was awesome. It's a good park to learn and get better at for sure.
Awesome.
And then you got these two parks, like, you know, you got the Compiègne Park, and then you've got the LA Mountainboard Park, just not that far apart. I mean, the French have got and then down in Bordeaux they've got a new park, or not a new park, but the one that's been there for a while. I forget the dude's name.
HXMBC, I think.
Yeah, that one. And so they've got a really good setup over there.
Yeah. Well, there is a new park though, isn't there, in Brittany, or that neck of the wood?
Yeah.
It's come up. Antoine Gombier's new park, where they had the freestyle from the French champs. I think they held this year there, but they didn't hold the board across. I think that was another two.
I've been to that one. Yeah, I've been to that one in 2019. That was a really cool one too. But I you know, I don't know. I might be I don't quite know the details of it, but I think that park got shut down and they opened another one.
There was something about that, wasn't there? Although the border cross was rideable in one of them, and the freestyle, I don't know what was going on, but it looked hell of a good time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, they as you say, they've definitely got such a good scene over there with you know, they've overtaken. Surely they must be the country with the most parks now.
Yeah.
UK's only got the one now. So
yeah. I didn't even think of it that way, but I think you're right. Yeah. Unless, I mean, obviously Brazil is huge, but I know Brazil they're kind of like the silent guys down there. They just have incredible athletes, really good parks. And I got Fernando down there. He emails me all the time. He's like, "What do you think about this kicker design? What do you think about this track design?" You know, and it's like, what are you building? Like, what else is happening? So many good spots. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
without a doubt. Yeah, so the whole of Central and South America is popping there. Costa Rica as well is absolutely popping at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a thought for the world champs or a world sanctioned event.
Yeah. Brazil would be a great, yeah, Brazil would actually be a pretty good one. Yeah, we got to get
it'd be
it.
hard to
Yeah,
get
we
the
got to
right.
get it out of Europe. It's too easy to keep doing it in Europe, and we kept trying for Australia, and with the whole COVID thing, it fell apart multiple times. But yeah, I'd love to see one get outside of Europe and make it truly international.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the key, isn't it? To enable it to be truly international. But I suppose with such a small, the only problem with it is such a small field of riders is that traveling that it's easier to put it on in, say, Europe or potentially America, because that's where the main hub of the riders are. But as you say, the scene in Brazil and that is massive. I mean, it's a massive country. Let's not mess around there.
Yeah.
Like it's got its own scene with a good following out there. And like you say, some of the riders out there are just incredible. Tiago and Lucas, and I mean, you still got the old dogs of like Tony and that still lurking around, shredding from time to time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice to see that, or Japan, or who knows. Tell us where I have to slide it by the wife. I need a legit reason every time.
And how much money we need to save up to get the airplane there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I think I've been down to South America twice for their Latin American championships, and they are amazing contests. They are so much fun, and everybody comes out. Obviously, a totally different vibe than anything that happens in Europe or the United States. They're just. I know Jeremy's been down there, and he comes back with a bunch of stories. I went to Brazil with Tom Kirkman once down to the south, and did one, and they're just like. The stories are amazing. They're super appreciative of people coming to them, instead of everyone always having to come to Europe or the US. It is a really cool scene, and it would be rad, I think, if more people got to see it, because every time Lucas shows up to Europe, we get this little bit of an experience of them, and we're like, oh my gosh, like, you're such a good rider, and they're like, yeah, there's like 20 more of us down there, but we don't hear too much about them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alex Lambda proved the pudding for certainly in the Masters category this year.
Dude, Alex, yeah, and that's such a like, I think when I went down there when Tom and I were down there 2008, 2009, the Masters guys were like throwing flips and fives and rodeos, and I just remember being there going like, "Whoa, dude, look at the shredding," Like, yeah. So to see him ride, like, yeah, it was really cool, and it was like, holy crap, like, this is awesome. It wasn't so much of a surprise. Like, if you know them from down there, like, they get after it, dude. And Alex, yeah, he definitely proved it, man. He was on it this year. It was cool to see him.
Yeah. Incredible rider.
Yeah.
Well, we could go on about the world champs for ages. Probably do a full episode or just about the world champs, or maybe we have. Anyhow, we should talk a little bit about your past, because that's generally the sort of rule of thumb as to when we have each guest on to cover their sort of their origin story, if you will. So, without further ado, could I ask, how did mountain boarding find you? Because it was way back when, right?
It was back in 2000. It was the summer of 2000. I was working at like a kids camp, like first job, and some of the other counselors got earth boards, like got two of them. and they brought him to work one day. And I tried skating. I never really liked skating because it was, I didn't like that my feet weren't attached, you know? So I was like always, and where I grew up in the foothills of the mountains in Southern California. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have smooth concrete or asphalt. It was all chewed up. And so you'd have to go somewhere in order to do it. And then snowboarding, I did skiing a little bit, but it wasn't really until later. I think mountainboarding was actually like the first action sport I got into. But snowboarding, like being fully attached and not being able to move my feet around, I just didn't like it so much. So mountainboarding kind of appealed to both. It was like I could still move my feet around, take my feet out if I wanted to. And then living in the foothills of the mountains in Southern California, we had dirt roads, fire roads everywhere. So I could just hike up and ride down what was right there. And so these guys, they brought their earth boards to the camp. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like 180ing off curbs right away. And it just made sense. And so I borrowed their boards and went riding a couple times. And then at some point they were like, hey, get your own, you know, and it's been downhill ever since, you know.
Were they skate tracks on the original earthboard? When all the axles have been bananaed from jumping up and down the flat landings.
I know. But yeah, so when I went to get my first board, it was I bought a Gen 2 Razor, was my first board, September 5th, 2000. And I had another buddy, just happenstance, one of my best friends had one. And we went and rode a whole bunch. Had a really good time just cruising roads, you know, around our house because everything had hills. Mm-hmm. And that was really what drew me to mountain boarding. Was I wasn't restrained by the terrain, you know, like I could go ride down a mountain. That it was exactly it. I could come off a fire road, come around a gate, carve down an asphalt hill, like sleigh up into like grass lawns, you know, and jump down a stair set and hit a handrail, you know, all in like one run. I could just ride a little bit of everything. And it was really cool. But yeah, so got that Gen 2 Razor and just rocked that thing. I think I stopped riding them in like 2005 or 2006 when I snapped the last one I had.
Yeah. I mean, as a lot of people seem to be doing is retro modding the old Razor decks. Find decks that seem.
Was it Ash? Is it Ash that's got that one?
Ash has got one now. Emlin's done one as well.
Oh, sick.
Jeff Bond, I believe, has just found one recently on Marketplace that he's
nice
busy been doing. I think that might actually be a Gen 1, so we'll see how long that one lasts.
Yeah. Pretty good wall hangers.
I'm just sitting here thinking of talking about the boards, and I'm a bit annoyed with myself that I haven't got the Colab up on the back wall for your episode.
Oh, check that out, dude.
I'm gutted. I feel like it's all pre-planned, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
See if I can take that one off.
Yeah. You should be making far more effort towards this podcast, Dan, you lazy shit.
Yeah.
Okay. This when I've got a stack of manhick hubs that are definitely going to make a clanging noise when that goes.
And look at that, dude! The property value of that place just went up putting that thing on the wall.
The only reason I'm not up on the wall, Kody, is because it's only a set of wheels away from being ridden.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me.
That's the shovel I've just dug out.
Yeah, I know you saw it on Instagram the other day, but I'm gonna go grab one of the other original boards that used to be around. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yes, Dan. Board porn.
No, but we've just skipped a massive chunk of timeline though, now, haven't we? We're on to Colab boards. A minute ago, we were just on his, there it is.
Yeah, dude. Old school
Terror board.
Yeah, old George Wyant. Check out these trucks, dude.
They're like
channel skate trucks. They got this like additional pivot here,
and
help stabilize them.
Nice. Does it? Have you ridden it in any form, let alone anger yet?
Not yet. The snow started to fall over here, so yeah. But I will be riding that. I think the last time I rode a terror board was with Wyan at Donner Summit in like 04 or something. Great boards. Great story with terror board too. They were huge innovators in that like 2000 to 2003 range, like consistently one step ahead, made their last step, and then George just shut it down. So what a good dude. That guy was cool. But it was rad coming back. If I think back to then and like learning to ride then, you know, everybody was trying to figure out what was going to be the best. So obviously it was MBS, it was Earthboard, Terrorboard. We had the outliers like Outback and Dirt Surfer, right? Mm-hmm. We had NPD Landboard come out with some really good stuff. Everything was really really iconic too, like their 8-wheeled quad shock truck, you know. Terrorboard, top of the list for sure. Trampa over there. If we like moved to Europe, Trampa started over there. No Snow, Jesus Christ, you got one of those? Yeah. And we saw how good those are at the champs this year. The dudes are just holding a break, drinking a beer, smoking everybody. Well, Pete Townsend's like, I haven't ridden in 20 years. Let me just go beat everyone.
Oh man. To be fair, do you think he even used the brake on that?
Oh, he did too, for sure he did. Yeah. He had to.
Well, yeah, I suppose because he's cutting down on carbs, isn't he? That the likes of Dominic was putting in. But yeah, just even to make that transition onto the cat track there, that final, he'll be coming into that on his toes on those big old mag rims as well, because you're not going to want much lateral movement on those.
It's so scary when you're racing against snowstones. They're just so intimidating.
But definitely the brutalist sport as such.
Yeah. Especially when TJ rocks up with the no snow, you're like, oh god.
Yeah. That guy definitely meant business there on his ride.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Like learning back then, there was so many more options, you know. And Kony being, for lack of a better word, the slut that he is, he went to the he was like Outback, MBS, Earthboard. Like, yeah, he would just ride everything. It was funny. We actually, I believe the first mountain board contest was the 97 dirt duel. Yeah. And we were hanging out with Leon one day, and he was like, he comes walking into the room wearing the 97 dirt duel shirt, and it had a Kony on it. And I was like, that's how old you are, dude. You're like, you're like the first mountain board contest.
You, without moving away too much from the origin topic, it's nice to say you guys have had a good relationship over the years.
It's been good and bad. Yeah. We say we have a love-hate relationship where we love to hate.
Yeah. It was great. It was great sitting around that bar just listening to you two banter each other.
My gosh. Yeah.
This is the thing. We talked about it and we never made it happen at the champs this year. But please, in the future, hopefully tonight will go well enough that you go, oh, do you know what, them boys, all right, I'll take another hour out of my time at some point in the future and just sit down and doing a Kony U episode and just unpack some of the old stories of old there.
Yeah, right. That is a cool thing.
But look, back to sort of your first boards there. Really, we was on your Gen 2 Razor and such. So went straight in with the MBS after having
Gen 2 Razor. Not long after that, they came out with the Comp 16 and the non-adjustable aluminum trucks. Mm-hmm. And that I bolted those to the Razor right away. And then that was my setup for years to come, until, you know, the only other adjustment I made would have been the F3 trucks, or the F3 bindings. I never did the adjustable trucks on a Razor. It was always the non-adjustable ones because they seem to be lighter. But then we would do the old trick, you know, lengthen your egg shocks and all that stuff. Try and get the
springs.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I rode that thing, and then yeah, like 2002, I thought, you know, what I saw in action sports, I thought that you had to be like really good to compete, you know. So I worked really hard. We had luckily living in Southern California, we have tons of facilities in order to train at. A lot of skate parks, which you know, a lot of my riding generates from that. But roll-ins to jumps. So 2002, I hit the Core Tour roll-in ramp, and I remember being on top, and Leon was behind me, and I remember being like, "Hey, like we had like a 13 or 14 foot roll-in at the skate park that we were at, so I was used to that."
Yeah.
It was like, "Hey, Leon, anything I should know?" And he was like, "Lean forward and don't fuck up." But yeah, so it was like a lot of skate park riding, and then yeah, 2002, I entered competition, and like pretty much won all the junior stuff that year. Wrapped it up in Iowa.
Being how old yourself?
Huh?
In how old yourself in 2002?
That would have been 17, 16 into 17. Yeah. And then or 17. And then in 2003, I remember in 2002 at the end of the national championships, I won the junior class, and Van DeWitt pulled me aside and he goes, "Hey, just so you know, you're going pro next year." And I was like, "Well, I got another year in the junior class." And he was like, "We know you do, but like we all want a shot, you know, like one of those things. Like you, it's time for you to move up. Like you're better than the junior class." And so I got forced into the pro class. And my first contest was the Venice Beach Core Tour. I showed up having a lot of the one-footed repertoire that I still have, more back then because I was doing 1footed 180s and one-footed threes, and that was actually the first. No, I threw my first seven in Donner Pass. I was the first one I landed. So I tried sevens at this Venice Beach Core Tour, landed a 5, got a couple one-footed 180s and a one. I hadn't done a one-footed 3 yet. So it was one-footed 180s. And I won that contest. And then I got a call the next week from Jay Bisson. And he said, he was like, "Hey, what nobody knew was that whoever won that contest got a free ticket to ride in Europe for the summer." And they bought me a ticket, and he put me up over in England, and we did the NAS events, Peterborough and Bath and West, and a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, we were going to all the centers. I think AK and Leon and everybody were over there then too. Sayard, Sansoni was there. Yeah, and then I can remember probably my most progressive. There's 2 real progressive sessions for me, but I can remember the NAS Peterborough event that year, and I can remember doing like trying one-footed threes, right, and not getting them. And I was there. I had the rotation. I just couldn't get the foot in. And I can still remember rotating, like pull the foot out right away, rotating, flicking the board, and I can still envision my foot going right back into that binding. And before touching the ground, being like, "Oh my God, I'm landing this." And then landed that, and then got a 7 later that contest. And then went to Tom's house because Tom had just started riding, and we were watching the videos, and it was like, "Oh, I think I could throw another 180 in there." And then went to 9 at Bath and West, and then started trying 10s, which obviously they were the old like ones, yeah. But got them around.
That's the important bit.
That's it. It's breaking ground, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it just kind of took off from there, you know. Then AK took me under his wing, and we started going out to Woodward and the rodeos, because I've never liked backflips. And so, in fact, first backflip I ever landed was at Hooterville. I remember that. Huge jump, still the biggest jump I've ever hit in my whole life. And the mentality back then was like on another level, because like everybody was just so like that level of riding from that many athletes was like it was pretty impressive. And I hit the main booter at Hooterville, still to this day the biggest jump I've ever done. I 3'd it, and I landed, and I walked back over to the top, and Ted and Scott Jones were standing there. And Ted goes, "It's pretty sweet, but it doesn't count." And I go, what do you mean it doesn't count? And he goes, oh, you didn't grab it. Like, I ain't doing that again, dude. No way.
There certainly was a period, even back in the UK, where things just got big for a few years.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like massive. I mean, I like to think that the current kickers at the likes of Compien and Bugs are reasonably comparable, but like I'm sure that the Bugs kickers were bigger back in the day, you know. And I know it's not a case of the whole like Mars bar thing when you were a kid that they seem bigger, and it, you know, where the manufacturers have made them smaller over the years. With them kickers, I don't know. We'd have to ask Bugs if Leon's versions of the kickers line at Bugs are bigger than what's currently in.
I've hit some of those. I haven't ridden Bugs recently, but I'd be hard pressed to believe that the kickers now are bigger than they used to be. The stuff back then, Bugs and Swanbook and all that. I mean, there was consequence, you know. And you got Tom and that crew just freaking throwing, you know, Lori and who else was in there? It's like Tom, Lori, Mick, James.
Arno was throwing.
Arno is in there, Alex Downey, and them just like hucking their carcasses over that stuff and putting things down like it was easy. You watch these old school videos of them riding at Winterberg and putting a kicker farther back. Like, I've ridden that spot. Holy smokes, that's insane. You know, like just playing with it.
Oh, that's it. I mean, well, Ryan, our last guest, Ryan Slater, he had a couple of images of him riding the Winterberg Gap, and when you look at the perspective of how big he is in the picture in comparison to where the kicker and the landing is, like, geez.
Yeah. That stuff was big back then, and that was I can remember it being said to me, and I can remember saying it to other athletes. They're like, "How do you do this stuff? You got to go faster. You got to go bigger," you know. And so they would just keep building stuff bigger so you could do more, you know, in the air.
Yeah.
But yeah,
snowboarding progressed. Geez, I mean, like, I don't know. I wouldn't know what the current like Olympic or big air kicker sizes are. I know that they're tasty size, but they seem to have figured out the transition so that I don't know if it's more air time with like a higher trajectory and a steeper landing, as opposed to, you know, that all-out speed in a straight line and then just dropping it away, because it gives that potential to overshoot far more, isn't it? But and I think that's quite why I like the Compien kickers. They feel nice and flowy, you know.
They're great.
They feel safe kickers. But yeah, anyhow, so how did you go, like, dialing it back just a little bit there? You got your first board, and we've sort of flashed forward to the mid 2000s, and you know, you're on tour in the UK. And if you're sort of 17, 18 then, simple maths, you're going to have been 14 or so when you got that Razor, and just riding around your local tracks. But then, so is it just skate parks that you were right? I want to know how you got that progression from being just a local mountain board rat to suddenly hanging out with AK and the MBS crew on tour. Like,
so the setup was different back in the day, right? Like the way mountain boarding worked. And in the United States, you had a West Coast series and an East Coast series, and everybody met up in the central part of the country for a national championship. So, so for me, what was it, 2001? I think we found it. Everybody knows of the 2000 champs at Krotka Ridge, right? That just happened. That track happened to be maybe 45 minutes from my house. So I'm already riding, like, I'm riding streets, I'm riding fire roads, I'm riding all that stuff. And then one day we get this inkling, like, let's see if we can find it, you know? Because we just know it's up there, but we don't know where it is. There's no address or anything, you know? So we start driving around the mountains, and we come across Krotka Ridge, come around a corner and look up, and you could see it in all its glory back then. Still hay bales. You know, we're a year out of that contest, maybe 2 years. Hay bales are still there, you know, huge berms everywhere. Like, oh my gosh, you know. And we walk up to the bottom of the track, and this guy comes ripping down on a mountain board. Dan Dworkin. He comes down to the bottom. He's the first other mountain boarder I ever met out of my best friend. And so real quick, you know, all of a sudden now my training ground is like a world championship style course.
Yeah.
The dudes have ridden on. And all of my references for mountain boarding are from there, because now we're 2001, 2002, and it all is fresh content still, you know. And you're watching Leon pass Austin on the hay bales and people washing out and shit. And it's like, oh, it all happened right here. And you've got these snowboard style booters that are massive. I will right now. I gotta shout out Jay Lee. There's two booters there. There's one in the center and there's one on the right. And the one on the right points at the booter in the middle. It's like super gnarly. Maybe not directly, but off to the side. And in the old videos, if you ever watch Jason Lee hit the right booter, he might have been one of the only ones to do it. He's definitely the only one that threed it. But he comes in, you can see him, people pushing him off the top of the roll-in to get speed to clear that. And if you're not careful and you mess up, you will hit the other kicker in the air. And so he like threes while doing that. Old Jay Lee footage from Krakow. But so all of a sudden this place with a chairlift that runs every once in a while. Josh Nepper lived up there for a while. So it's like all of a sudden you've got these, you know, I got, you know, Dan Dworkin, who's running all the West Coast event series and helping with the national stuff. I meet him like right away. And then Nepper's living up there at some point. So there's like another line into MBS and doing all the tours and stuff. So I think riding there, and Dan's obviously like, you know, I'm taking it pretty serious and pushing myself and trying to be better, and I'm getting faster and more progressive. And so they're bringing me to the contest. 2002, that junior year, Donner Summit, what was it, Sandhill Ranch. I love that track, an old BMX track. That's really where Kony and I like started to bond, let's say, from blows at that track. And and then national championships. So it was like meeting everybody and then riding this track, you know, airing off of berms to flat with Nepper. And they used to have this big double. It was like it was four rollers in a row. And if you could pump double, it was like a big deal. I remember like being able to do that for the first time. So it's just being in the mountains and you're riding like natural terrain, you know, fire roads, really just dials in your control of your board. The reason why I always rode skate parks is because of everything that I learned in the skate park, I can translate to the dirt. So I never minded. It was the easiest thing for me to go do. So it's like all these riding a bunch of different terrain. I progressed like fairly quickly. And then boom, like I'm, you know, winning a core tour. I'm competing over in Europe and, you know, placing with, you know, contests with Leon and Jeremy and Sansoni and all them, you know. So a lot of that backstory stems from finding Kratka and being able to ride that track, being comfortable on a border cross track, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an idea for a future US Open and potentially see if Kratka could be.
We talked to them about it. They want like an ungodly amount of money. So.
Really?
Yeah, and I think they've parted out that chairlift. Everybody could walk to the top, or we could shuttle or whatever. But there used to be a chairlift at the bottom that would take you right to the top of the track. Yeah. And they've since taken parts from that chairlift to try and get these other ones to run. So, but yeah, that place has been in a little bit of turmoil for quite some time. We used to know the owners of it and everybody. It was Kratka and Waterman, these two really small east side of the range there. Ski resorts, super cool spots to go snowboard, really beautiful area, bighorn sheep going through there every day and stuff. Like, but yeah, I would definitely Kratka. That's where a lot of my I haven't thought about that in a long time, but yeah, that's probably where most of that progression came from, especially border cross wise.
Well, that's it. And you know, the names that you're mentioning there are the OGs of the sport and the scene and the community. You know, as you say, with Dan putting on the competitions, Nepa was putting out a lot of content and stuff like that, and that we were seeing on this side. It was our only, you know, MVM and stuff was our only sort of view into what was going on. On that side of the world. You know, we had the ATB mag and you know, the J Bisson sort of stuff over here and various other bits, but yeah, it was like a different world to us. Who were riding at the time.
It was really cool too, having like a Western and East Coast series, because like Jeremy and I, we're the same generation, you know, like we came in, we started riding pretty much around the same time. He beat me to the pro class by a year or whatever it was, you know, or he was riding pro class like 2002, maybe even into 2001. But obviously best friends, like we ride together all over the place. But his mountain board upbringing is completely different from mine. Even though we were doing like core tours and all that stuff, like his mountain board class is like the, you know, like my Dan Dorkin, my West Coast event organizer, it's Frank Beleza for him, the East Coast ATB, you know? So like it was really cool to have these like two different things. And then we come together, you bring everybody together for these national championships. But it's cool to have different stories. It's not the same, you know, like different terrain, different style of riding, different whatever. And then same thing on the West Coast, you know?
But yeah, I mean, you say Jeremy has always been there in your sort of age class. You know, we have the same in the UK with the likes of Rennie and Dicko and you know, they're all of that. They're like little mini generations, isn't it, throughout mountainboarding? It's littered with them. And unfortunately, with modern mountainboarding, we've skipped a few generations, unfortunately. Hopefully that's turning around. But yeah, you still share a good relationship with Jeremy as well, from what I hear. Is a rivalry? Do you think is it fair to say there's a bit of rivalry on track? Do you ever get to compete against each other? When was the last time you sort of rode together in competition?
Yeah, so I could walk to Jeremy's house right now from where I'm at. We live like right next to each other, right? And he's we get to snowboard all winter. We still get to mountain board, you know. The competitive side of it has it's kind of tapered off, you know, like back in the day we were pushing each other really hard. And I was always like the weird one. Like that, you know, my upbringing, I think, because I have to look at my career and it's been about longevity, you know, like my whatever world championships are 2004, 2013, 2018, you know, there's like a pretty solid spread of it. But the last time actually, this is really good for me, dude. All these memories come back. The German World Championships, which I think was 2015 or 16. I remember it was me, Jeremy in the semis, Jeremy, was it Andy Brind, and who was the last one? There was someone else, but they were shredding, right? Like Andy, obviously Andy, and God, I can't remember who else was in that race. They were like top dogs too, you know. And I can remember ripping and getting across the finish line, and I turned around like, who's coming with me, you know? And when I turned around, I saw Jeremy, and I haven't had that excitement in so long. Like, oh my God, like 2 Americans, like we're in the finals. Drop kicked my helmet. I remember I was hugging him like crazy, and he was like, man, all I want to do is drink a beer. People keep eating shit in front of me. That's what happened. Andy and whoever else like took each other out. He just went around them. Yeah. That was cool. That was the last time we were in like a high profile, you know, environment together. But he's still like, I'd rather go ride with him than almost anyone else.
Oh, well, yeah. he had a bit of a tumble last year, did he not, on a snowboard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was teaching snowboarding and had just come off the chairlift, looked back at his trainee, and right as he started to turn around, he hit a tree and like broke. I think it was at like, I can't remember because AK broke a bunch of ribs this year too, because I can't remember which one number it was. But I think it was like 9 ribs or something. Just folded, hot dogged around a tree, broke a bunch of ribs. Yeah, so he's been recovering, but he's way better. He's back to running, and obviously you saw him riding in France this year too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope that you get good snow and get plenty of an opportunity to go out and shred and have fun and yeah, play the idiots in some powder.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
we'll have some fun. Jeremy's on the mountain every day. I squeaked out like 105 days last summer or last winter. But yeah, we got 55 inches of snow in October and 0 in November so far. We're waiting for the snow to show up so we're opening next week. So we'll see how it goes.
And are you working over the winter there yourself?
Yeah.
What?
I picked up like a pretty normal job. So but it's been awesome. I always tell people what I did before I got this job because it's like way cooler.
Tell us the jobs before, because you did do I've had a little chat with Matt here before. In fact, let me just double check what he's written, because he has given us a question. We can put his question in at any time, so that's cool. We'll give it to you now quickly. He says, my question to Kody would be, how are the Excel skills coming along, and how many lines is your most complicated formula? Is this an apt time, perhaps, to have brought this question in?
That's funny. Yeah, because he's Excel nerd, right? He's like
oh yeah,
hot dog, in Excel. But I've been using Excel more and more for my current position, and it's coming along. I'm not that advanced, but I can get done what I need to get done, like efficiently in Excel now. But yeah, before I was working I did Fox Racing for like 7 or 9 years. I was at GoPro, did a lot of event production, did Rampage. Actually dug lines at Rampage with a bunch. They're the ones that messed me up, the mountain bikers, because we would all hang out and they'd be like, "It's not that big," and then you'd see them ride it, and then I would get to something and be like, "Oh, it's not that big," and then just drop it. They like changed my perspective for sure. But did a bunch of stuff in action sports. Worked for Red Bull for a long time, and then COVID hit. I took when I moved to Aspen, I took a job here at the local public transportation company driving buses. I walked in, I handed him my resume, and I said, "Hey," because I had a Class A with a passenger endorsement, like our big rigs and all that stuff. And I walked in and I said, "Here's my resume. I want to work nights so I can snowboard all day. I want health benefits, and blah, blah, blah." And the guy goes, he looked at my resume, he looked at me, and he goes, I don't know what you're doing here. So they've been wonderful to me. And I most recently was working on a race car team, changing tires on an Aston Martin, UK, a GT3 Aston Martin team. And did that for a year and a half or 2 years, and had an offer they were going to put me on a Porsche Cup team, an open wheel car team, like in between F3 and F4 cars. I was going to do a DPI prototype team and my GT3 Aston Martin program over a year. And I looked at the schedule, and between like February and November, I was going to be home like maybe one weekend. So I turned it down, and I took this supervisor at this public transportation company in Aspen. And I've just been hanging out here. So it's been a good spot though, because I took 3.5 months of PTO off this year to go travel, mountain board, do a bunch of stuff. So the benefits of it, it might not be a very glorious position, but the benefits of it have been really good.
It sounds to me as though you've made a decent enough trade-off between going really quick and putting wheels on, and choosing a life where you can travel and have fun and do things
and ride a bit
you
more.
want to do.
Yeah. I missed the wheel changing though. That was really fun.
Okay, all right. Maybe you just get one at home. Just get one at home.
An Aston for at home. It's so fun.
Okay. If we've got to attach it to something, you might as well attach it to an Aston Martin. But my original thought was just on the garage wall.
Oh yeah, totally. It's always funny because I see Aston Mountain. Obviously I live in Aspen. Jeremy and I live in Aspen, and so we'll see him around. And I'm always like, some guy will be getting in his car, be like, "Hey man, I used to change tires on one of those." Yeah. Look how cool I used to be.
How fast can you change the tires on a mountain board?
No, I don't know. I'm too picky. I'm like, you know how it goes. You're like,
that's it. The man for the bearing flush, I reckon.
Yeah. AK spilling the beans. AK spilled the beans to me. We all know this story. AK spilled the beans to me, and then went to the UK this summer and just cleaned out Matt Brin's bearings because he wanted to be nice. I'm like, dude, do you realize there's still a rivalry between the UK and the US, and you're just making it easier for him? Like, come on, man, back off. Same team here.
If you think that people in the UK have been living without freshies and lube for a while, we're not absolute heathens. We don't just spit and go, like we are accustomed to a bit of lube.
I know. But Matt's not. He's too busy with Excel sheets to go clean his own bearings out.
I'll get mine in sawdust.
Yeah.
I think, hey, look, if you're at the cutting edge, you got to be looking for every advantage, haven't you?
So that's it's interesting to think about different racetracks and what you try to accomplish at them. Like if I go to Serbia, I don't have to train like fat is fast. Like you can run whatever you want on your setup. You just got to make sure your wheels don't lock up and you got tread at the end of the event. Like, because you're going so fast and it's so steep downhill. Like you're managing everything. It's more mental than it is like equipment. Equipment definitely plays a part in it, but it's not as crucial as if you race Compiègne, and it's like the board I set up for Compiègne was non-spring trucks, titanium hardware. I did the same thing for Slovenia in 2018, titanium hardware, make that thing as light as possible. I'm running like 4 days a week to try and shed some of this poundage because you got to get up and over those rollers faster. You got to be able to generate speed faster. So there's definitely more of like a training element when it goes into the flatter tracks and into more of a downhill track where you can just be a little bit more relaxed. Like fat is fast, dude. I just gotta make sure I don't get wheel bite or something.
Don't fuck up, basically. Don't fuck up.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a more adult mindset. I don't think that 17-year-old Kody, or I mean, go back to mid to late 2000s when you're US champs and stuff like that. Were you savvy to lube back then?
Nope.
Exactly. So this is what I'm saying. It's an adult mindset, and there's currently I'm obviously more of an adult than I was back then. Yeah. But I think the modern way has changed. People are training for it. We've got a few rides in the UK that we've seen rapid acceleration in their abilities and but by doing additional training, whether it be like you say, doing a bit of running or some gym work or even just being on a board of any description, day in, day out, whether it be a mountain board or a skateboard or whatever,
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And yeah, couple that with an adult mentality who's eating well and not drinking so much, or and well, at least try and maybe not to drink the night before competitions too heavily.
Yeah, I think we all know the record of me and my world championships and how much I drank the night prior. There is definitely a correlation to how close to blacking out I still am, and how soon after I have to go race, and how well I do.
I honestly, I don't know how you guys even get up. I rarely drink, and there's a good reason for it, because the next day I am horrendous. Absolutely.
I will say that the one in 2000, oh my God, that one in 2013 was amazing, just because I was like, I want to go to bed. I'm not drinking tonight. Take me back to the hostel, right? And as we're driving by the hostel, Jeremy was driving the car, and he was like, like, we're going out. And I was like, God damn it, And we get into downtown Novi Sad in Serbia, and he's trying to pump me and Mason full of shots, and like Mason, I'm so over it. Mason is like, hey, wingman me, dude, to some super hot girl. And I go up to her friend, I start talking to her, and she's like, hey, you're white, you speak English, why'd you bomb us? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, holy shit. I was like, her and I start arguing, and Mason's like, this isn't how this is supposed to go. And they ended up being so awesome. She's like, I don't want to be out. And I was like, neither do I. So, dude, we went until like 8 a.m. or something, and then walked into the hostel and got rides to the track like an hour later. And I remember
Did you ever stop off via James Wanklin's room that year?
Yeah. But then we get that's a funny one too. We got to the track, and I can remember being in the gate, just like housed, and being like, all right, we got to get this over with. Like, I can't feel like this. But it knocked the nerves out of me. Like, I was so nervous that whole time. Going into that race, I hadn't competed in 5 years. Like, I didn't know, where I was at. Well, I was still riding 5 days a week, but just didn't compete. And so I didn't know how good I was or how I was going to do, Qualified 5th or something. I think Matt qualified 4th, and we were all like, oh, this walkie-talkie, like, all right, he's dropped kind of thing was sideways. But I got into the gates for the finals. That whole story, me sweeping my gate out into Wanklin's gate, and him being like, what are you doing? Why does your lane go down because this was an American thing, like, why does your lane go down and then turn to the left? And I was like, because I'm going to drop in and turn left into all 3 of you guys, and you guys figure it out, They were like, no, you have to stay in your lane until the first roller, We're like, oh, really? I can remember yanking out of a gate in North Carolina and jumping over. Jeremy and I were on the outsides. I can remember jumping. I was lined up sideways and jumped over Baron Frierson, like outpulled him, jumped over him, slid into Jeremy and pushed him into the bushes. we grew up racing so dirty here in the US, and so I love that. I think everybody else thinks it's like a dickhead thing, but us here in the States, man, we loved racing like just on the line,
Yeah. I think when that has to be said, you say that because it's not something that the Brits are very polite, aren't they? We'll say, oh, you go to your gate first if you like, and there's a gentle handshake or a fist bump before everyone's dropping in, and as you say, that I think it's not so much to the first feature, or sometimes it might be to the first feature if that feature is less than 10 meters or something like that, these days at least. But I remember back in the day people pulling across, like you say, across it in a tactical way, and that I think that was one of the reasons why that obviously got put in place in this country or in Europe, I should say.
My favorite like messed up move ever, my favorite like racing move, because to this day, Jay Lee denies it. So Jay Lee is like the dirtiest racer, and he'll always say he's not. Oh my God, man. We used to have so much fun racing Jay Lee. But him and I think it was Evan Carlson. It could have been Chris Mancuso, but I'm pretty sure it was Evan Carlson at the US Open here in Snowmass. They go into a berm together, and Jay Lee, they both go over, right? Evan's on the inside of Jason. They're going left, and they both go over this berm, and everybody crosses the finish line at the end. And Evan is yelling and screaming, Jay Lee pulled me over that berm. He grabbed my ankle and he yanked me over, right? Jay Lee's like, no, he's like, no, I didn't, like I didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And so we're all like, because it's definitely something Jay Lee would do. And so we're walking, or like, that wasn't my race, but however it happened, Tyler Mork's dad grabbed me and he goes, look at this photo. He had a camera and this photo's out there, and he turns it, and it is Jason fully over the berm, Evan on track, like Jason's hands on Evan's leg, like pulling him off the track, dude.
Oh, amazing.
That was awesome. Jason Lee used to do this thing where he'd if you used to race back in the day, he's got this squat that he does, right? And all the old school racers were super careful about it, because he would squat down and then he gets his ass up in the air and he just pushes you off the track. he'll just drag you off the track with his ass out. Oh man. I remember
foodie in your face.
Yeah. Can I tell one more about him?
Yeah, of course you can.
Definitely. Keep him coming.
We got him so good one race here at the US Open, because I had switched to ground industries, right? Kony was still on MBS, and Jason Lee this time was like, he was pushing everybody around, right? Like MBS didn't matter. And I had like third place gate choice or whatever. And I got into the outside. Oh, well, they got to pick first. So it was like Jason Lee in this gate, Kony in this one, and then me on the outside. And so I was like, yo, Kony, he's gonna push me off. The first berm was a right-hander. I was like, he's gonna drive me straight up this berm, right? And so Kony and I are chatting, even though Kony's MBS, and he wanted to help me out because like Jay Lee was being nasty. And I think the reason, actually, if I think about it, the reason why we raced this way is because we had the double elimination bracket, right? So like you had to lose twice. So if you lost once, you could still get back into the finals. So we would mess around like this because we knew that we could get back in,
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I'll take a loss. Let's take Jay Lee out, right? He's like, all right, I'm in. And so we come up with this plan, right? Like, we know that he's gonna get all squatty on me. We know he's gonna stick his ass out and he's gonna drive me straight up this berm and off the track, right? So we were like, okay, let's do this. I'll go over the berm, right? But I'm gonna take him with me. And Kony, you come in, you slide in up the middle, and you just take us both out, right? Just send us both over, right? And so AK is like, all right. So we we get into the gates. We're like, hey Jay, let's have a clean race, right? Super clean race. And he's like, all right, I'll give you a clean race. We yank out of the gates. Sure enough, him and I side by side. His little butt comes up, right? He starts moving over. And I ball tapped him because he's like got his ass up in the air. So we ball tap him, stands him up, right? Boom. He stands up as we're going into this berm, and Kony just comes in, wham, and just cleans us both over the berm, right? And I'm laughing hysterically, right? We climb up back onto the track, ride to the bottom, and we get across the finish line. Me and Kony are laughing and hugging, and Jason Lee is like, that's it. That's the last time I ever raced clean in my whole life.
There's always little bits. Even in the UK, there's little bits of helping each other out, or like as you go through, you have your pals or whatever. And I'm not saying it's not really a done a done thing. But if you've got that opportunity, like you say, a double elimination,
that was clutch.
And you can be. It allows for tactics, doesn't it? And especially if you like in the
and the ball tap's the greatest tactic of all time because it does send you bolt straight up.
It's right there, like right in your face. It's just like
and you lock your knees out, don't you, automatically?
But like back in the day, there was you had the regional teams, so that if you got in the gates and you had one of your regional teammates in there, that they could help out in a tactical way and stuff like that. Okay, maybe that didn't work with with Jason and his teammate Agoni in that particular scenario. But I think that's more in good fun than actual tactics to win as such, isn't it?
The dirtiest race I ever raced was with Jason. They're all with Jason, because it was just so much fun. And we were racing Chaos in Kansas. And that was a 2-man race, right? It wasn't 4-man border cross because the track was smaller. This is before they built the big track there. And so 2-man elimination, right? Him and I get into the gates. I just say, see you in the finals, dude, right? And let him win, right? And then I come out of the losers brackets. We get into the finals, and you got to beat them twice. That's how it works. So we get in the gates. I should have just raced it out. Had an amazing pull. Got out in front of him. Absorbed the first roller, right? So he's next to me and just came in between his shoulder blades. Boom, right? And he got popped, and he elbowed me in the face so fast, like, damn, and he hit me, and we like stood both of us up going through these rollers. And then he comes into the left-hand berm that was there, and I just tried to come in right freaking to swipe him out, and he just got out of there. And I went off the berm, and I rode the outside of the track down to the bottom. And I was like, AJ, my bad, I'm sorry. And he goes, nah, it was awesome. I loved it. It was great.
It's amazing what good camaraderie comes from riding these boards. I mean, you've picked up sponsorship from MBS themselves in some way, shape, or form. You've ridden for them over the years, haven't you?
2002, Mitch DeGaulle, Donner Summit. I was trying 7s for the first time. 2003, I was trying 7s for the first time right before I went over to Europe. 3 of us hit 7s in one day. This is how big mountainboarding used to be. I hit a 7 at Donner Summit all on the same day on a Saturday. Donner Summit, I threw one. Jeremy threw one at a core tour or on the East Coast. I think it was actually an East Coast one. And Chris Farmer threw one on core tour. So like the first 7s in a contest were the 3 of us on one day across the country. 3
different events. That's fucking mad.
Yeah. East Coast, West Coast, and then like a more, invitational style one. Yeah.
Slipping forward a little bit, I'm looking at the time here, and I've been having such a giggle that we're potentially running over time already.
There's like 20 years of this stuff. So.
It's all so. Do you know what? I've said it before on there. I never knew how much joy this would actually bring to me and to Slogs. A chance to speak to you guys, and more open that thankfully are still with us at the moment, but they might not be in another 30, 40 years time or something. And these will be a little mental jog for everybody really now. Thankfully have turned into something of that. But it is always such good fun reminiscing about those periods in the past, and that we still have, thankfully, today, with the likes of the world champs that have just gone on, and the return of the US Open and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. I think it's great. I thoroughly thank all our guests for coming on, and the chance to unpack a few memories is fantastic.
Thank you.
But look, talk us through a little bit. We mentioned the board earlier, and I had to apologise for not having it up on the background already. But come on now, you is it safe to say? I think we can safe to say with the lube and the titanium fixings and fasteners, you do like to geek a bit on the mountain boards. So at what point in time did you start thinking about producing the collabs, and how did that come about?
You want to talk about camaraderie and stuff like that? I just told all these fucking stories about Jason Lee, and he's the start of Colab, you know? Yeah, I had a little bit of extra cash laying around. I believe it was 2012 or 2013. 2013, I think it was. And got everything done in Europe, had that world championship, all that stuff. And I was still riding that Comp 95, the green one. And Jason just calls me out of the blue one day and goes, "Hey man, I got this opportunity that I really want to do, but MBS won't go for it." He goes, I've got it set up at the factory and all this stuff. So I said, "Oh yeah?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, I got some extra cash laying around. Maybe we try and figure it out." So I flew out to Denver. I was still living in LA at the time. I flew out to Denver, and we went to the factory. We met with them. They were telling me about their process. They were pressing the top end bust-in and original longboard, like all their top stuff. So it was a tried and true process, and we knew it would work. And then we got into designing the board, and that was probably the most exciting part. I think I've been offered a pro model from Ground Industries and MBS. I turned them both down because they were like, the pro model from MBS was Jeremy's old board, and the one from Ground was one I wouldn't ride. It was too short, and I didn't like it. So, so we got to designing this board, and it was everything. The way I'll describe it, it's a mix of everything that was always known as like the best. The width of a Colab is the width of a Gen 2 Razor, right? At its max width. We had what back then it was the 100 and the 95, right? And we knew we wanted something in between. So we took a 95, which I just won a world championship on. Why not? We made it an inch wider, which put it at 97.5. That was a very specific number. We wanted it 97.5. We wanted it in between because one we felt was too long and the wheels were too far away from our feet, and the other one was like a little bit unstable at high speed, super off road because it was short. So 97.5. We actually widened the stance by 3/4 of an inch. The goal being that it would spin like a 95, but ride like a 100. You had the length under you at this point, we decided, because concave was always a thing. Like everybody always wanted to use concave in decks, but they snap, Gen 1 razors, Gen 1 blades. The first iteration of the Dylan deck, they were snapping, they're concave as well, So we wanted to do the concave, but we knew that in order to get a smooth flex pattern, the middle of the deck had to be flat, So these guys told us that they could make these footbeds that were cups, So we based it on a bowl. Let's do I can't remember if it was an 1/8 or 3/16 or a 1/4 inch, maybe even the concave depth, but it was circular because on mountain boards, especially for someone like myself, if I take my feet out and I want to kick, I want to be able to turn my foot and feel the same feel, So that's how, we wanted to do that. I wanted a shallower tip and tail angle, because that's going to help us get a better flex throughout the whole deck instead of putting pressure points on those, where your tip and tail come down and then go back up, which is a thing, when MBS moved away from spring trucks, they adjusted the tip and tail angles higher. There's a steeper angle to get that turning radius back.
Yeah.
So it was like all of a sudden we got to make I called Jeremy, I called Kony, I called everybody. It was like what do you want? You know, we're making it, you know? And then I wasn't worried about weight because I just wanted it the right flex. And so we went through probably 3 or 4 prototypes before we got that deck you got on the wall set up. And then I said, make 4 of them, right? Matt got one, I got one, or Matt got 2, I got one. And we started riding them. And everybody was like, you know, then the 2014 championships got 1-on-1. The 15 got 1-on-1. The 16 got 1-on-1, you know? And like all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, these decks are awesome. And people started going, how do we get them? You know? Oh, I'm one step ahead. This is probably the most controversial thing that I can talk about. But yeah, so it started with Jay, you know? And he, you know what happened? We were part of the process the whole time. We designed this thing. We started testing the prototypes and all this, you know, and we start going through the process, and then he just kind of fades out, you know. So I started making more and more decisions, and then he was out of it. He was gone, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got a message from Matt, and Matt was like, "Hey, I just got a copy of next year's MBS catalog, right? And in it is this concave mountain board, you know?" So it was, let's say, not unexpected, knowing, you know, the past of mountain boarding and MBS and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm making these for me. At this point, they weren't available to anybody else. It's good that someone's putting them out there, you know, that they'll be available. So they come out with them, and they start breaking, and then we're still crushing ours. And I kept telling people, were like, how do I get one? How do I get one? And I was like, you don't, you know, like they're mine. And I told that to Phil Einla, and then Phil makes Hero boards, right? Arguably, I mean, amazing boards. And yeah, we went back and forth about it all, and I was like, dude, if you can put a superior product in people's hands, do it, because I don't think I'm gonna make mine available to the public, you know. And so he created Hero. He did so much cool shit that I couldn't do, with the PBT bottoms and inserts and all that different stuff that's got going on. Like, those boards are amazing. They're incredible. I love Phil so much. If there's a rivalry between me and anyone now, it's Phil. Because like he's like, dude, he's crushing it, dude. Like, we were at the World Champs this year, and we were like, because I brought that 4-ply carbon, that there's one of them, you know. I brought that thing out, and we were like weighing it up against each other and shit, you know. Like, hey, can I buy those butt pads?
I remember being stood with you and Phil at one point there, and obviously I don't know your relationship or how you've got on. I was thinking, my goodness, this is proper intense. This sort of conversation is well above my pay grade, is exactly what was going through my head at the time.
we were nerding so hard. But we don't get to see each other, right? And the innovations that he's made, like, are so good. They're everything that I wanted, but the factory I was working with was like, we can't do it PBT based, we can't bond it, you know. And yeah, having sidewalls and all, like Phil's boards are top notch, you know. I'll still always say that mine are better just to piss him off, but he's crushing it, dude. To have a kid's board, that's something I always wanted to do. Have a kid's board, you know. Like, yeah, he's doing an amazing job. I love it. But yeah, so I was still at that point, like, I made 4 of them. That's it. I don't mind if I invested all his money. Super cool. We went to Germany, you know, and I got, you know, as you do at a Mountain Board World Championships, after it's all over, I got super drunk with Diego at the end, and Diego is still El Presidente, and he goes, you have to fix this. You have to make these available. It's not fair. That one was a special one, that final, because it was Matt, me, and Biren on the podium. and they were all handmade boards. You know, it was like the first time that like a major producer hadn't been on the podium. That was really cool. I remember that one being awesome, you know. But yeah, so Diego is like, you got to make these available to the public. So all drunk and wasted, I'm like to the factory. All right, let's do it. Let's do 50 decks, you know. And that's how it happened. We put in an order, got back to the States, wired them the money. They did 50 decks. I showed up to pick them up. They were all 4-ply. They were the wrong layup. So I said, I can't take any of these. And then they did another run, and they didn't have them to mold right when they drilled the truck tip and tail, like the angles. They were crooked. So we mounted a truck to them, and they were sideways. And I was like, I can't take these either, dude. Like, I'm so sorry. You know, I feel bad because you're spending all this money, but they're just not right. And then the last run was what you got on your wall.
Yeah.
62 of them. AK's got one. I've still got 3 tucked away. Dan DeWorkin just got 2. That was pretty cool. I was in the storage unit the other day. He blew me up, and I was like, you know what? I've been talking about sending these to you for so long, for everything he did for the sport. So he got one, and then he gave one to Justin Dersham, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's 3 left now or something.
Well, I mean, I remember hitting you up years ago trying to get one, like, no, I've got a couple knocking around. Maybe one day I'll get... and it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. And oh man, did I ever get lucky with Adam Conacher?
Yeah, that was that one. That was that one. Cool. That's the one you got. Yeah, Adam. Yeah, that was great. I'm stoked. And he put it through its paces, and it's still around, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and
I'm so happy with it, dude. They didn't lose their flex. They're like still stiff enough. They still kill it. They're great boards. I'm so happy that opportunity arose and that Jay called that day and we were able to make it happen. Because if there was no Colab, you know, like, would there be a Harrow? Would there, you know, like,
to be fair though, Kody, truth be told, if you were to do another run at those, I'm sure you probably have heard this from many people. You do another run of those tomorrow, you'd probably sell them all again. You know, if that's what you want, if that was what a scenario you wanted to happen, I don't think it wouldn't be a failure.
Tampa and ATG told me that they would buy every single one I made.
Yeah. So
it'd be reopening, because we were going to do another run, and they were going to be all the 4-ply carbon. And I opened that relationship back up. I just walked into the factory, and the owner was like, "What are you doing here?" You know, and we reopened that relationship, and then that was February of 2020, and then COVID happened, and it just shut everything down. But he doesn't. I know for a fact he doesn't make decks anymore. They stopped making Bussin' original stuff. He still has my mold.
Yeah.
But he was entertaining the fact. He was like, I can't believe because I told him, I was like, it wins everything. You know, like, it hadn't, every contest had been entered in, it won for like years and years and years. So he loved that fact, and he said they'd fire it back up. But again, that's 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
But if I did another run, they would be the 4-ply carbons, and they're so sick. It does feel bad having that one. Coney will do anything to get it. He like I said, dude's a slut. He's ridden for everybody. Ridden everybody. But he stood on that one day. The first time he ever got to stand on it, he stood on it and was like, he's like, I don't even need just the flex alone. Like, this is the best board I've ever stood on. I know it's good. This is actually this is a struggle. The thing I've been struggling with the most recently is if mountainboarding becomes like a requirement for me, I have a really hard time enjoying it, you know? Like the IMA stuff, like, I didn't want to do it because I was like, it will pull the joy of riding away from me, you know? And it's just like Colab. Like, Colab was fun, and it makes me so happy to hear people say that they love it and that they, it's been a great board for them. That brings me so much joy. But the process of getting it started and all that, it was such a hassle, and it pulls that joy away, and it's trying to, especially in the most recent years, trying to stay motivated to go ride. It's been a really big issue. It's been 23 years. Like I've done a lot of what I wanted to do in mountain boarding. There's still a couple things I'd like to do. But it's hard to stay motivated to push myself to continue on, I never stopped. There's a lot of people like a Kony that stopped riding and came back and they have this renewed invigoration, but I've been riding every year for 23 years, and I'm starting to lose that, that fire for it, and it's trying to find a lot of the questions I've been asking some of these guys that have been around for a long time is like, how do you keep that motivation? How do you stay like so stoked to go out and and for me now it's riding with other people. Before it was me pushing myself. Most of us, you guys in the UK had it pretty good off. Like you had centers that you could just show up and ride with random people. But out here in the States, like most of us grew up riding by ourselves.
And I think in the UK, it's very true. There's a huge social side to it, and there always has been to the sport. Definitely in the UK.
Yeah. Like you say, that ability to go. You could still now, if you can get to bugs, you could ride with random people all day, and you could turn up any weekend, and you could be riding with Matt one weekend and James, and then the very next weekend you could be riding with, Eamon and Emily, completely different styles of riding, and you might not know any of them, but they'll be there and they'll be open, they'll be accepting of you. Where the US has never, like you say, you've had some iconic locations, but those locations, they're not mountainboard. They're not mountainboarding. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, Cracker Ridge, Cedar Ledge. Yes, you could go and possibly ride there, but it's not a legit place that's sort of ran as an enterprise of any description, whether it be, a public or a pay-in facility in any way, shape, or form. But I don't know that the UK again, being so much smaller, has been an advantage to the scene in this country, because it allowed for those regional groups that didn't necessarily have a mountain board centre, an ability for something back in the day to have an identity of a little local club and people that you could meet up with, which I think the US did have, didn't you? Because you had certain regional areas that, like you say, like we've known. But that still probably involved organising meets or whatever. And as an older bloke now, I mean, I dare say I know for a fact you're not as old as me in Slogs, but you're not too far behind. But it does get hard to stay motivated to ride in when you are solo. These days, okay, I can step out the front door on my electric board if I want and go for a ride on that, and that's great. That ticks the box. Do you know what I mean? It takes all the hassle out of going for a ride by myself away. I just put my helmet on, charge up, and I go. And I can do that from my front door. I return to my front door. I've not got to drive anywhere. I've not got to stop and walk up a hill solo and get out of breath or whatever. But none of it compares to going to Bugs or going to Cleve with a big group of people, walking up the hill with everybody and riding down without it. Because that is that community spirit. And that's why I thanked you right back at the start of the conversation for your involvement with the IMA, because I know that's been hard work for you, as you've just said. And it certainly sort of shit has been hard work for Matt and for Mika. And Diego, all organizational roles, they take their toll on the people that do it. And the people that do those roles generally are passionate as fuck about it. But it's hard to keep motivation for passion, you know, over such sustained periods.
Yeah, it becomes something that you like have to do, you know.
Yeah.
And that's like Matt has to do the timing and that stuff, you know. He has to whatever. It was really cool, and I was stoked to see it. It was really cool to fly to the States with Matt and Nikki, and we went and rode at the US Open this year. And like Matt's level of excitement was like I haven't seen him that way in so long, because he's like, I don't got to do anything. This is awesome, right? and the organizers over there are running over, going, Kody, like, how should we do this, right? And he's like, this is awesome. Like, they're yelling at you, dude. You know.
Bless him.
It was really cool. I'm glad. Yeah, that was great too. We went to breakfast every morning at this little like diner, and but it was hilarious because they were ordering pancakes like crepes. So it was like, you know, they had dessert pancakes, like big old fluffy American pancakes. But they were ordering for dessert like crepes. That was a good trip, man. But it was cool to see Matt like just be able to chill and ride and have a really good time, and it not be super competitive, and him having no responsibilities, you know.
Oh, he
was fast on that track as well.
Yeah, and that's a fun one. That's like one of our iconic American tracks, like one of our favorites, one of the fastest. And they extended it, and they're like, you know what? We just made all these roll. Like you came out of the gates. It's kind of hard to see that track in totality, but you come out of the gates, you turn the right hand corner, and there was 4 bridges across a ditch. So you had to line up into one of those things, and then after that, there was like rollers that were all offset. They weren't like a straight roller pack. It was like all mounds everywhere,
like a mogul field.
It's a cool spot. Yeah. Cedar Ledge. And that's another individual. And I didn't realize it until we got out there this year. Like as far as American mountain boarding goes, Curtis Kelly never stopped either. He just kept riding, and his board collection, like he just had old blades that were used as signs to go here and there and wherever. Like his board collection is unbelievable. Yeah, that's a good dude, man. He's got crazy stuff too. Stuff you don't see anymore, like superchargers. And I think he had like a spinal tap, which you never see, old frame board stuff, you know.
Yeah.
What a dude. Yeah.
I think Matt made that journey look quite easy, should we say? From an outsider's perspective. It was like, oh, we just come back, just jumped on a plane, managed to get to the event, you know, pretty easy off the plane. Like, okay. And New York's not that far. I mean, it is far away, but it's not the same as going to LA from the UK. It's
yeah.
So yeah,
that has been something with the States. It's like, we get, you know, Nikki's come over and Dylan's come over, and you know, Diego would come over, Con Mitchell up from Australia, he would come hang out, you know. So we get people over here, you know, here and there. But man, I mean, what's left of us over here, we've been really trying to make it to Europe like every single year. Come ride with everyone over in Europe, like be around people, you know, because it's I don't know. I guess it would be nice to see more and more people from Europe like come ride with everybody in the States, you know.
Well, we're only a few months away from being able to book the flights for 2025 now.
Oh yeah, right.
The invasion will happen. There's a good crew of riders are interested at the moment. We'll see how many make it onto the plane in 2025, but there's a good number at the moment.
I'd like to see more people come to the US Open, because I think that was an important contest. It was a little smaller than expected, but it was important to have one at Cedar Ledge. And then to have Matt and Nikki come over, like to see that top level of international riding and see that comparison, you know, like, yo, like this is where the rest of the world is at, you know. And there's athletes here in the States that are pretty freaking close. So I'm going to be calling up some Americans for the next World Champs and be like, "Hey, we're going to Europe. Let's go. You're under my wing." And I think we were talking about, the social side of it and bringing everybody together, and I think like hats off to the Serbians. They're amazing. Their World Championship in 2013. The energy at that one has yet to be matched. Like I find myself continually going to World Championships to find that again. Like to be there, everything that it got involved with it, to everybody putting their eyes on that track for the first time and going like, you just ride this every day? like, oh my gosh, like to the nightlife being so close to going out in downtown, just the vibe of it all. Like one of my favorite parts from that was each room in that hostel was a country. Like the Russians had a room and the English had a room and the Dutch and the Belgians, we put them together, but they had a room. The French had a room. Like everybody had their own. Like each country had a room. The U.S. had a room. The Brits had a room. And so like the what do they call that? Like the patriotism was like at a max. People would drop in and you'd yell, "God save the Queen," or "USA," or like it wasn't about the athlete, it was about the country. It was really cool, and everybody hung out as a group and walked the track. Your country walked the track together, and you guys were eyeing up stuff and helping people out, and it was so cool. And I haven't seen it since. The closest we get is in Serbia, but I haven't seen it like that since. That was such a good one. But yeah, so that's there's a lot of people that are like, like contests are dumb and all that stuff, but there is something to be said about getting the community together and just supporting each other.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Whether it's a competition or not, you'll have a good crack if a weekend of mountain boarders all get together somewhere in the world, wherever it is.
Yeah.
But like I say, I do hope the US Open returns again next year.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice if the planets aligned and the dates all fit in well.
Mm-hmm.
Get the time off from the kids and the wife.
Yeah.
A long weekend's trip to Cedar Ledge. If it were to go back there, that could be attainable, I reckon.
Man, what a cool spot. I mean, a lot of our iconic races for mountain like Crocker Ridge, all the old guys like Akoni and Leon and Jason, they can all talk about that. But we were definitely talking about Cedar Ledge. Like you went to Cedar Ledge to like have a good time, and it was a racetrack. It wasn't you couldn't mess around there, And so it was serious, and it was always a really, really good time.
Yeah. Slugs, I'm coming to the end of my questions, but Slugs, was there any? I mean, I do have another couple of questions, but I'm thinking here, Slugs, is there anything you wanted to ask?
To be honest, I'm just quite happy sat here listening to the tales because those of these tales are new to me, man.
Fair. Well, yeah. I mean, it would be remiss of us, Kody, if we didn't talk about something that is felt quite strongly around the world here, and it's a debate that has been going on for many, many years. And I mean, you could obviously refer us to historic films that have been made in the past and stuff for your real opinions. But how are you feeling current day on the old foot diapers?
Oh, dude.
I knew that was coming.
So I think a lot of people get the misconception that I like hate on foot diapers. I like to talk shit. It's part of my personality. And so I rip on them. And I say it, I do it for only one reason, right? And that's because I can jump on anybody else's board and ride it, but they tell me they can't ride mine.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, it's all your personality. Like if I really grew up riding. Well, when I started riding, there was no such thing. And so I got accustomed to falling a certain way, pulling my feet out when I needed, pushing. I grew up skate parks, you know, all the street stuff. Like I push everywhere, you know. So it was I always take my foot out and turn and move, and I see what, you know, we'll call them heel straps, let's say. I see, you know, the benefit of it, especially in the UK, right? That lady broke her leg, Leon's board came off, right? That's when it all kind of came about. But obviously we can look at the progression of riding, and we got Leon and Kony and Tom and all of them, you know, they start wearing heel straps and the progression takes off, you know. But what I don't want to see lose, what I don't want to lose in the sport of mountain boarding being, you know, that all-terrain board.
Yeah.
Like the moment you put heel straps on, you drive to your local center or you drive to the skate park, and like that's all you ride. You know, it's not something that you can just kick down. You know, a lot of people get so used to riding without heel straps, they have a hard time like kicking mountain boards, you know. And that, again, back to Serbia, like some of my best memories there, and I know the others will say the same, are kicking around cobblestone streets and dropping off of castle walls onto grass embankments, and like just riding everything. And the only way we're able to do it is by either kicking in or you got to get pulled in, you know. It's another side of the sport that back in the day was a big side of it, you know, like Justin Rhodes and his 1-footers, his Supermans, his Wolverines, you know. Just that whole trick side of it. Matt has taken that over. He's doing a great job. He's been doing, like, what did I see? A 1-footed backside cork 5. Like, oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, Matt's like taking it over. And, you know, if you talk to him, he'll say like, it's awesome. Like it feels really good to like take your feet out and be able to do that kind of stuff. Especially like skate park riders. It just makes sense to like not have your feet in. You're just moving around a bunch more. There's no hate for them. I just talk shit. I got a lot of friends out here too, you know, that have come up and been like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, you just hate on us, you know? And I'm like, no, I don't hate you. I think that there's a benefit to it. I think that they're awesome. I think that they help progress the sport. But if I see an opening to talk shit, because they get so defensive.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, dude, fucking lay off. And I'm like, no, dude.
What started out as just what would have been just a friendly conversation has turned into this almost like this whole international thing. It's not just you, Kody. It's like no Americans ride with heel straps.
They do.
Every British rider rides with heel straps. But I think from a Brit point of view,
yeah.
See, we had no snow.
I was about to say, you guys had fucking bindings, yeah.
Exactly. So then everybody's looking at them thinking, oh, well, how are they staying on their board around that corner? It's because their feet aren't slipping out. And no matter how much you lock against posts, I mean, the classic one, that blinder event there.
Oh my God, I know.
About Leon and Nikki, not Nikki Wainwright, I think it was.
Was it?
Who was? I think she might have been a no snow rider at the time. Anyhow, but you didn't see any of the people with bindings on in that same environment because they weren't. You know, they weren't slipping away from their board. You got so much mud under your feet and in the fucking bindings, and it's just a shit fest, wasn't it? But
also, this is before, like, you know, the bindings have really progressed since then, and so that like a lot of that was, you know, post bindings.
Yeah,
but I think we just got into F3s then, you know, but then we're also talking like super thin comp 16 decks, nothing that's like wider. There is a lot to it. But Matt invites me to come compete in Europe or in the UK all the time, and I'm like, why? I can't even ride over there. I can't even compete, dude, because you won't let me. He's like, oh, we'll make an exception. I was like, hey, if it's for me, it's for everyone. You know, me and my strapless people, We all hung together. I will say that's one of the things that I wish I would have been able to do was in that movie that Mason and I did, Strapless. The day that we tried to ride that massive hill, that day I should have filmed it that day, because that day I had cleaned it up. Like, first section stopped under control, we chatted. Next section stopped under control, chatted, and then rode it out. Right. That day I could have ridden that top to bottom, and that's one of my biggest regrets is not doing that, because the day we went back to film it, it had all gotten hard, and there was no possibility. I knew it at the top. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to ride this out without falling like 3 or 4 times to get to the bottom. But yeah, I've always wanted to ride a big line like without heel straps.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Benton's bloody leading the charge there with his completely free boards, isn't he?
Yeah, right. I know. Mapleton Mountainboards. Yeah, over in Crested Butte. If I yell loud enough, you'll hear me. He's only like 7 miles.
Well, he's promised to be a guide when we come over in 25. So yeah, you'll definitely be there for that. I bloody hope you will be.
Oh yeah, yeah. Moab is amazing, and yeah, him and Ben have figured it out there. They know all the spots, and nobody turns like those dudes or Jason Lee. Like, they do a hell of a good time, or they do a hell of a good job. Like, because Moab, you really should not be standing up, and then they drop knee and just, oh man, it looks so good when you see everybody out there that like knows how to ride that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still seems a long way away, but it will come around quickly, I'll tell you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it'd be great.
Look, listen, we've been pretty much banging on coming up for a couple of hours here, Kody, and I'm so stoked to have had you on. I don't want to ever overstay our welcome as such, because I know like you're taking time out in the middle of your day here to do this on one of your days off. So
good, dude. It's been good for me too. So
it's been great to hear some of the stories, especially seeing as you've not heard them yourself for a while, and they're all very deep down in your little brain.
I know, dude. That stuff popping back up, and it like brings other stories, and I'm like pushing other stuff away, because I'll talk at you guys forever. But we should do an Kony and me one. I would appreciate a Kony and me one, because that dude and I we really do have a history, and there are a lot of stories. There's a lot of racing stories, a lot of like just travel stories, and then at that, if we did one like that, we could talk about me putting him into retirement and then
Did you go over? You went over for his birthday recently, right?
Yeah.
How was that meeting up with man, what a roll call.
Leon and Nepper and Dworkin and Sickerell and Grover. Yeah. It was crazy, dude. Leon is just such a legend. He hasn't changed one bit, dude. It was wild. Yeah, it was great. We were on a beach, caught a bunch of lobster, had a huge lobster dinner, was eating fresh pokey, fresh tuna steaks, had mahi fish sandwiches, like unbelievable birthday party he threw on that beach. Like 31 people that, we all have either heard of each other or have hung out together. It was a wild one. Then we went to Waikiki after, and it was it was interesting to say the least. It's like 6 a.m. every night, like rage.
I mean, I think it's still quite early over there at the minute in Hawaii. I did message him yesterday. It's a funny one. I'll message him, I'll not hear nothing, and then like a couple of days later, I'll just get a phone call in the middle of the day. What are you doing? I'm like, but yeah, I don't know what time it is now over there. We'll save it for another episode. We will save it for another episode. I won't phone him up now and give him shit for not sending me anything over.
It'll go another 2 hours, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's been lobster diving at night recently, because he's got a commercial diver's license to harvest lobster, and he's real humane about it. but he like will get in the water at like 11 o'clock and go to like 5 in the morning. And then he'll put a little sign I made for him up on the side of the road that says like fresh lobster or live lobster for sale, $20 a pound. And he sells whatever he grabs. So he's been hitting it pretty hard on that recently. And I think today is one of his rest days where he's trying to catch up on sleep.
Well, it makes me glad then that I haven't bothered him anymore. But we will.
Oh, no, dude, shred him.
Yeah.
We'll organise one.
Well, if you're happy to come back on and feel motivated, hopefully this hasn't put you off at all, hanging out with us boys for a couple of hours.
Yeah, because I mean, we've got him and I've got history. I mean, we didn't even talk about the movie Johnny Capahala.
No, we haven't. No.
Stuff. Yeah, there's so much mountain board history that's just like tucked away, and it's been cool to bring some of that to the surface and get to talk about it. And, yeah.
Oh, it's been brilliant. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah, dude.
I'll get in touch again. I'll set up a little group message or something with a Kony in, and then we can give each other shit for a couple of months before we actually get one organized. But yeah, we'll do that.
He'll be out here. He's in fact, I just ordered him and his brother. We got a bit of a Burton discount, and so him and his brother ordered boards, but it was my order, so they're showing up here. So the catch is he's got to come here to get them.
No.
So he'll be here at some point, and maybe we can do it then, and we can even rope Jeremy in because he lives here, and because we're like the three amigos. Like one of the first road trips I ever did in mountain boarding was him, Kony, me, and Jeremy. We road tripped from LA after a core tour to Cedar Ledge in Pennsylvania, and it was 3 weeks long, and we did a stopover tour in a stopover show, like a 4th of July show in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. But it was 3 weeks long. We picked up John Sever on the way, who RIP isn't with us anymore, but was an amazing athlete. And everything during that trip that could have went wrong. And it's why we're all so tight, is because we had to go through all these tribulations together. And like Jeremy and I are best friends now out of it. Kony and I are best friends out of it. And it's from this road trip of like all of us being together. Then we would show up at another event and we would just find each other. And it was our group, like we went to hell and back together.
He'll have to hit Jeremy up. He has agreed at some point in the past, a few months back to
get him now. You got to do him in the next week. Yeah. Blow him up. No, blow him up because he's in Fiji right now or French Polynesia or something.
But that's time I look, he's in a different country, and then I come back and he's full swing in mid-season. I'm like, oh, well, that's winter gone.
Yeah. He's done a good job of getting out and traveling a whole bunch. He's been everywhere. He's a good dude, man. He's a good human.
We'll get him at some point, Dan.
We will do. Look, you're a human, Kody.
Before the season opens, he's totally available. Blow him up. You got like another week.
Okay, I'll hit him up on Insta tonight then.
Cool.
Ping. Yeah. Thank you, Kody, for stopping by with us for a couple of hours there and spending some time reminiscing. I really appreciate it. We, the mountain board community, really appreciate all the work that you have put into keeping the sport alive on the international scene in the US. Doing your passion has helped fuel mountain boarding. In the same way as like we've got people like Matt Brind and Bugs and and AJ in the UK to thank for that. The equivalents over there, and Mika and all of you guys that put in the hard work in getting these events out for us oiks to go along and enjoy and make these memories out. They wouldn't happen without a lot of hard work, and you, sir, have put that in abundance over the years, so thank you.
Yeah, and I'll deflect that compliment to Mika and Matt, because they really do like the heavy lifting, and any of the event organizers that we've worked with over the years, like Ludo and Boba and Dayon and Lushka and everybody over there. Like they're the real heroes. They're the ones keeping it together. They're the ones doing the hard work. So like, there's no way that I could take any sort of.
Well, at least take a bit of thanks for 4 down.
Yeah, have a little bit. We'll throw a bit your way.
That one was me. All right.
Yeah, all right. 4 down in the boards. You gotta take.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesomeness. It's been an absolute joy hanging with you, Kody. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully, we'll see you next summer at some point.
For will be over. Yeah,
by hook or by crook. And if Cedar Ledge happens again, let me know the dates ASAP, and I'll see what I can do about getting myself over that one.
Yeah, we'll have to get with the boys over there and see what their plan is next year.
Perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Dirt with Kody joining us. I don't know what else to say. I'm a bit lost for words now at the end of the episode, but that's done.
Thanks,
next
man.
Time. Yeah. Thank you guys. Yeah, that's a huge shout out to you guys too for keeping this going and talking to people and giving us content to look at and enjoy and draw inspiration from. That's great. I know it's hard to keep it going. So like, well done.
I'll be honest, I have had a little lull of the last couple of weeks, but we're back on track again. There we go, and you know, like you say, without the putting in, you get out of the sport what you put into it, and I've gotten so much out of mountain boarding over the years that it's only right that I try and do something to put back. Anyway.
That's huge.
Yeah. And you get to stalk all the legends of the sport, which is your main inspiration.
That's it, yeah. Perfect. Right then, gents. Kody, I'll let you get back to the rest of the day, dude. Slugs are later.
Right. Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thanks, dude. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Way aye, man. That was dead canny as out, that like. Cheers for tuning out to listen. Now, before you gan yem, don't forget, if you want to keep getting doing with the Dirty Dirt fun, like and subscribe. Get amongst it. Shy Ben's getting out.